Hello! Welcome back to my channel. Check out my cool mug, first of all. I haven't gotten to show this one off yet. This is a Japanese mug. Some folks might be quite familiar with mugs that look like this. This one's particularly nice though because it's got a raised detail, so the little ducks are actually three-dimensional a little bit. It's a higher end version of that kind of mug. So I was particularly pleased to find this cute little mug. Been shopping, so yeah. Anyway, yay, treasures. Oh, and I am drinking rose black tea. So setting the stage for what we're doing tonight. Got my tea, got my pretty mug, got my books. Yes, this is a video about books, not about mugs. This is a video about what I'm going to be reading in May. So this should be fun. If you haven't seen my TBRs before, I read a lot of books. So my TBRs are big. And it's probably more accurate to call them piles of possibilities. I do not expect that I will read every book on my TBR in the month that it's the TBR. But if I don't get to a book in a month that it's in the TBR, it doesn't mean I won't get to the book. I will read every book in my collection before it leaves my custody, unless I really decide I hate it. And even then I have to read a bit of it to know that I hate it. So once I've adopted a book, it gets at least a fair assessment before it goes away. And I very rarely DNF a book. So that's kind of the general, my approach to TBRs. I also have some basic exceptions that it doesn't matter if I find all my library books in time to stick them in the TBR. All of my library books are automatically fair game in any TBR because they have a time limit, and I'm really bad about keeping up with when the books are due, especially now that we don't have fines unless they're like really late. And then it's more like a lost book thing that kicks in. I don't want to do that for sure. But if somebody puts a hold on a book that I have, how dare they? But they do. Then I can't renew it, and then all of a sudden it's going to be due, and our library auto renews books 6 times, several weeks each time. So add that up, my library books can live with me a long time. And after a while I lose track, and sometimes it gets to that last renewal, and like, oh, I've had this a while, I wonder. So anyway, all library books are fair game on any TBR. I try on months like April, where I was reading books preferentially from certain dates, to not check out books that are outside the rules. And that worked pretty well. I do have one book that I sort of started in April that I shouldn't have, but I didn't finish it in April. It will be in the May TBR. Otherwise, all my library books are either Dublin Literary Award long list books, or they are books that were published before 97. So I did return library books that were not allowed, aside from the exceptions that I talked about that I read in the very beginning of the month. So there's that. Also, always concluded in my TBRs as a default is any ARC that I've received from Goodreads giveaways, NetGalley, wherever I got it from. I used to be involved in various early reader programs that I still have a few straggler books lying around that I got from those programs. Any book that I obtained in that way is always fair game. So it doesn't matter if it made it onto the TBR, I can read those books. And that was true even for April. That was one of my exceptions. Although for April, I limited when I could read those books and the Dublin Literary Award books to just the reading sprints hosted by Dusty Book Sniffers, Nicole at Dusty Book Sniffers. So on her sprints, I could be reading those categories of books, even though they're not from 97 or earlier. So I do build in those sort of pressure valves, I suppose, on any rules that are going to limit my reading, because there's certain things that are going to be a problem. I'm going to find the book from a list and need to read it right now, and I'm not going to shut down that possibility. So, yeah. So these are the kinds of rules I've had all my life. This is how I do TBRs. Yeah, I didn't realize everybody else didn't do it that way until I started really paying attention to BookTube. You mean everybody doesn't do this? Really? I also read a lot, so my TBR is huge for most people. And I actually might finish more of these this coming month because I was inspired by all of these folks doing 30 books in 30 days challenges. Okay, I finished more than 30 books in the last 30 days. So that by itself, not really a challenge. But it is a challenge for me to stick to a TBR. It feels like school, like it's an assignment, except that I'm making the assignment for reasons. And some discipline is good. Being able to say, I'm going to read this book and then read this book is really good as a skill. And anybody that does NetGalley knows that this is something that eventually you do have to do a little bit of. Otherwise, your percentage is horrible and you don't get any more books. So it's a skill that I need to practice. I'm pretty good with the NetGalley arcs just because they're a format I don't read very often otherwise. I don't usually do ebooks. I do audiobooks or print. So any ebook, I have gotten used to, okay, that's on a schedule. I have to read this book. So I do. Case in point, the books I finished so far this week have been predominantly, I wouldn't say entirely because I did read some other books too, but predominantly the books I finished this past week have all been NetGalley arcs because I got approved for 7 new ones and all of a sudden had 26 books that were waiting to be read. Yeah. So I finished 9 of them and brought my total unread down to 17 as of today. And then went and got a couple more. I need to finish so when you get I'm going to get to the TBR, I promise. When you get a NetGalley arc, and you download it, at least in the system I'm using with digital editions, which is an Adobe program to open these files with. So you download it, and then the first time you open it, it fulfills that book. So it's not all the way downloaded just because you hit download. You have to click on it and complete the download, basically. And you have to do that before the book expires. So I need to do that for the 3 I just got tonight. So I have to remember to do that after I finish making this video. And then I'll have them to read. I also like doing those because even if my internet is wonky, once you've done that, the second step, the actual downloading the book part, if your internet is wonky, the book's already on your computer, even if you're on a Chromebook, which I'm on. And Chromebooks don't usually download to the computer. They download to a cloud storage space, which is awkward if then your internet goes out. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of what I'm up to, and that will continue next month. I will be doing the ARCs and Dublin Literary Award long list books only during Nicole at Dusty Book Sniffers reading sprints. I wouldn't say only, but that's going to be predominantly what I read during those sprints. I can read them outside of them, but I'm going to try and focus on those two categories in her sprints. Because that does mean that I actually focus on those two projects exclusively 3 times a week, which is pretty good. And I can accomplish a lot in those. Her middle of the week sprints are usually about 8 hours, sometimes a little longer. And if I can stay awake that long, she's in Australia, I'm in the US, so the time difference is huge. But if I can stay awake all night, which is what that one pretty much ends up being for me, I can finish a lot of reading in that sprint, or in that set of sprints. So, yeah, I think that's going to be kind of what's going on in May. I think Coda is still doing his morning sprints on Wednesdays for May. I think I saw his scheduled sprints that he was doing that. And I've been enjoying being on those. So I probably will have to figure out how to sleep in the middle of the week. My guess is I'll sleep before the big sprint train starts on Tuesday, and then sleep again after Coda's sprints, because we're going to get into where it's hot in the middle of the day, and a midday nap is kind of nice. I think that's the plan. We'll figure that out. Because, yeah, I think that's actually going to make more sense than some other things. Anyway, now that we've waffled for a while, I like that word, by the way. Got one of the guys that does pressure washing always talks about waffling, and I love the word. So anyway, we're going to stop waffling, and we're going to get to the books. 31 books. I'm going to actually try and finish these 31 books, as many of them as I can keep my discipline going for, in addition to whatever else I decide to read. There's still that. And I'll show you as well the books that are carryovers from this month that I may or may not finish by the end of the month, that may also be kind of grandfathered onto this, in addition to the 31 official books. So, with no further ado, here are the books. We have Robin Cook, Cure. She has a new book coming out. I saw it on NetGalley. I didn't look at the publication date, so I don't know which month it's coming out. I've read one of her books so far, I think Cell, which involved a nefarious program, like an app that shows up on your phone and does bad things. Anyway, so I've read one book by Robin Cook. It was good. So I'm going to try a second one, and we'll see when her book comes out. And I don't remember if her book was available to request on NetGalley. I may have even requested it. I was doing a bunch of them all at once. So I don't know if I will be reading it as an ARC, but it would be nice to read another one of hers that already is in print in case I end up reading the ARC. Yeah. So then we have Time of Death by Susan Wittig Albert. This is a book from the China Bales murder mystery series. It has recipes. And this book is from a series where each book centers around a plant. Actually, I don't know if this book has recipes in the back. They usually do. It might be that there's things in the middle. Anyway, usually there's recipes. Sometimes it's in the text, sometimes it's at the end. Most of Susan Wittig Albert's books do have recipes. And they do definitely give you information about growing plants and using the plants in various ways. My favorite in this series is probably the one about lavender, because it gives you how to do soap and all sorts of other things with lavender and how to grow it. The indigo one, it's actually called indigo dyeing. That one has a section in the back about the different types of indigo plants and which growing zone is best for which plants. And I want an indigo plant. They sound so cool. Anyway, so if that sounds great, look up Susan Wittig Albert and her China Bales murder mystery series. She also has one called the Darling Dahlias murder mystery series. I love it. I think that's my favorite. A garden club in a small town in the Deep South during the Depression. It actually starts just before the Great Depression begins. And we follow these ladies through the Depression. And she did her homework. They're really great. It's historical fiction murder mysteries. And I really enjoy them. And they definitely have recipes. There's one I read as a library book that I need to get my own copy because it has all sorts of pie recipes at the end. And oh my gosh, I need to make those. Anyway, book 3, The Constant Gardener by John le Carré. I saw the movie a while ago, and now I get to read the book. It was a pretty good movie. Then we have Trevor Baxendale's Doctor Who Wishing Well. This is a David Tennant doctor with Martha. We have Wicked by Gregory Maguire. I've read the rest of the series and somehow I didn't actually read Wicked, so I've had a bit of spoilers already, but I already have read the entire Wizard of Oz series, like all 13 books or however many books there are. I think it's 13. So I've already read the whole series, so it's hard to spoil it entirely because it's still based on that. But anyway, so I will finally finish Wicked in May. That one I really intend to finish in May. Absolutely. We have 1,000 Acres by Jane Smiley. I've read a couple of hers now. She's a pretty reliable general fiction, literary fiction author. I have Tammy Hogue, The Bitter Season. I've read 1 or 2 by her so far. Mortal Instruments, City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. I have not read anything by Cassandra Clare, I don't think. I was kind of thinking about, doing a theme like mainstream May. I don't know if anybody does something like that. But so I did end up picking a lot of more popular books for my May TBR. So a lot of these are more familiar books. I don't have as many of those, esoteric authors that nobody ever talks about. Some of them are a bit older books, though, so you may still not have heard of all of them, but a lot of these books will at least sound familiar. All right. We have Educated by Tara Westover. This is a book that Alex from Frank Fiction was reading in March and really liked. So when I found it while binge shopping, same place I got my mug, I picked up a book. This is the only exception to these are all popular books that you'll have heard of before. We have Quo Vadis by Henrik Sienkiewicz. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I don't speak Polish. but this is a buddy read with Nicole from Noteworthy Fiction. So this one will be interesting. And I will also be pulling up in a separate video all the buddy reads for May, because not all of the buddy reads are actually in my TBR. They're kind of an extra category. But I did include this one in the TBR. But funny thing about buddy reads, they don't always finish in the month that they start. So I still have, I think I put it in the TBR. I still have a carryover from this month's buddy reads that's going to be next month. I think 2 for that matter. So I figure the buddy reads from May might not be finished in May. They may just start in May and extend into June. So we'll see how those go. Anyway, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Start playing with books and they start falling over. Anyway, Clive Cussler, White Death. This is an earlier book in the series. Dirk Pitt. There's always some sort of wreck or something, and then it turns into an adventure and spans the globe, and Dirk Pitt is cliched, horribly cliched, to the point where it's cute. And the other thing Clive Cussler does, I know not everybody likes it when authors do this, I think it's fun. In practically every one of these books, somewhere in the adventure, there's a point at which the lead character or somebody needs to be rescued or needs a form of transportation, something. And this old guy named Clive Cussler shows up and, gives them the ride into town, or, fishes them out of the water and hauls them to shore, whatever it is. So he works himself in as a character into a lot of his books. And it's fun watching for, where is he going to show up this time? So, anyway, so Clive Cussler, White Death. I do have one that it's a carryover that I started this week. So I might be finishing 2 Clive Cusslers in May. And I'll show you that one in a sec. I have Lost in a Good Book by Jasper Fforde. The Good German by Joseph Cannon. I read his Shanghai that is coming out in April. And that was really good. So I'm getting back to some of the ones I have on my shelf already. Traveling with Pomegranates by Sue Monk Kidd and Ann Kidd Taylor. I like this cover. It was very pretty. I think I kind of picked it up for the cover. Figured that the author was recognizable, so it might be good. The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. I've finished a couple books by Anne Patchett now, including Tom Lake. So I'm kind of familiar with her style. Here's one that's a carryover that's a buddy read. So this one is in the TBR still for May. The Deep End of the Ocean by Jacqueline Mitchard. There is a thread on my Discord for this book. So if you're going to read this one, if you're going to buddy read or barnacle buddy read this one, hop on my Discord. Let us know what you think as you're reading this book. I need to put my comments in for the first however much that bookmark marks. And then move on to the next section. But this is one, it's about 400 plus pages. So for me, if I really wanted to, I could finish this tomorrow. I really could. But I don't always have to. So this one I'm extending out a little bit and breaking it up and pondering it and giving people a chance to also read it so we can chat. So, yeah. Then we get to the section that's the library books. I've checked this book out 4 times without finishing it. My sister owns a copy. So, I should read it. And then I should get her to read it. And then we can talk about it. Like a buddy read, but with siblings. I don't know if that part's going to happen, but The Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flanagan. It is actually on the Dublin Literary Award library. So it was at some point longlisted for the Dublin Literary Award. I don't know beyond that how far it got, but it's on that list. So is this one. On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. This is the one I accidentally started. I was at the library and I didn't have a book with me, and it was right there, and I read the first 3 pages last year and then didn't finish it. So I read the first 2 chapters of the library and had to take it home. Actually, I didn't even take it home that day. I took it home a week later when I was back at the library, and my bookmark was still where I left it in the book. I was like, oh, okay. So this is Rabbits by Terry Miles. It reminds me of The Matrix. Reality is not what it seems. There's stuff going on beneath what we are perceiving. And then A Burning by Megha Majumdar. Remnant Population by Elizabeth Moon. How Democracies Die by Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt. Have a Little Faith by Mitch Albom. This one's a carryover from People April that I wanted to read, and I don't think I'm going to get to it in the next 2 days. So I'm still going to read it for May. This is a biography on Balzac by Stefan Zweig. Is it Zweig? Yeah, it is Zweig. In German, the EI is usually an I sound, and the IE is usually an E sound. So Stefan Zweig. Message to the Planet by Iris Murdoch. This one's one I was going to read for April. I'm going to read it. Airframe by Michael Crichton. Downsize This by Michael Moore. Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis. Death of the Demon by Anne Holt. I've had this on my TBR several times this year. I need to actually finish this book. This one is the other buddy read that I didn't get to, and I'm going to get to it. The thread is up on my Discord. The English Patient by Michael Ondaatje. And then this is a arc that I got from Goodreads giveaway, and it's actually the last one I've won. So I need to look and see if I've actually gone and entered giveaways lately. I might not have won simply because I keep forgetting to actually go on there and do that. This is the last one I won. Evenings and Weekends by Wazin McKenna. I know I used to be able to say that name without stumbling on it. It's Irish. Oisin. Wazin? Like rosin, but not, maybe? I don't know. I don't think so. But I used to know that name a lot better. I used to actually follow Celtic music a lot. And yeah, I've gotten rusty. It's very, very, very embarrassing. Anyway, with a name like that, I'm betting the author is Irish. Just saying, probably, because nobody else knows how to pronounce that name. Anyway, and it is set in London in 2018 in June when it opens, apparently. Yes. Ms. McKenna was born in Dublin. Oh, not Ms. Mr. No, I definitely don't know that name anymore. Last time I encountered it, it was a name for a woman, though. Now I'm totally confused. Maybe it's like Jamie. Like, you guys, if you're all familiar with my grumblings about Outlander, I did not like Jamie in Outlander. I didn't like him. And no. He should not have my name. It made it really awkward to read those books. Anyway. Yeah, so maybe like that where there's men and women that have the name. Anyway. So those are my official TBR. You'll notice that there's some wiggly stuff going on in there. There's some carryovers from April. There's a couple arcs in here. The How Democracies Die is actually another arc from a Goodreads giveaway from a previous year that I never got to. So it's not like all of those exceptions stayed out of the TBR. So if I pulled those and put them aside, the actual number of books in the stack is not actually 31 if you take those ones out. But never fear, there are other books. But those are ones I'm actually going to try and finish. I'm also going to try and finish some of the ones that I started and haven't actually finished yet. So that includes Hole in the Sky by William Kittredge. This one's another one I was going to get to for People April, and I started it. And it's not very thick. I might finish this one this month. But I didn't get very far in it. I started Ice Station Zebra by Alistair MacLean. And the bookmark hasn't moved very much, but it is in there. There's the bookmark. So, might finish that one. That should be pretty fast if I can just focus on it. Because it is a thriller, so it should read very quickly. I did not finish this book yet, but I did move the bookmark a little bit. I'm now in the next emperor in the book, which is Tiberius. So I will be reading about the Emperor Tiberius next. Or the Caesar Tiberius. Anyway. So this one is a carryover, guaranteed it's a carryover again, but I might make more progress in May. It depends on if I'm in the mood for history. The Fallen Fortress, book 4 in the Cleric Quintet. If I finish book 4, I will probably move on to book 5. So, wherever it is, I think it's in my room, but officially, that one's the only one that's a carryover. But series, it's kind of a gray area. If it's in the series and it's the next book, it's still kind of valid. This is the one I started. This is the one that would have been coming out and that everyone would be reading if you were a booktuber in 1997. This is the recent Clive Cussler that you probably have in a nice, shiny, hard copy in, big hardcover and everybody can discuss what's happening to Dirk Pitt. Is he gonna survive? And I don't remember if he's married yet in this one. I haven't got very far in it. I think this is before he gets married. I think it's that early. So 2 Clive Cusslers. Somebody today in one of the sprints was trying to figure out this Clive person. This is Clive Cussler. He's a Colorado resident. He has a place west of Denver, up in the mountains. And he actually does collect old cars. And he actually does funnel proceeds from his book sales towards actually investigating wrecks and sunken ships and the missing locomotive from out near Kiowa in Colorado. There's 2 books by Clive Cussler that are nonfiction, Sea Hunters and Sea Hunters 2, that are kind of history segments about finding the ship or the train in that case. So the actual thing that sunk or was lost, and then fictional kind of the story of how it was lost. So those are pretty cool. But his real life does echo his fiction, which I find really cool. I was a tomboy, can you tell? Yeah, cars, planes, trains. I'm not so much now, but it's still there. I've got some way into this one. This is also a library book, but the bookmark is about 50 pages in. So People in Trees. Yeah, People in the Trees by Hanya Yanagihira. I love the cover. It's so pretty. I've checked it out several times, though, so I'm going to finish it. By Stephen King for this month has been The Talisman. Or Talisman? It does not have that in it, does it? Yeah, it does. It has that. It's just the way they made the cover. It's really faint. Yeah, it is in there. It's just... I was grumbling about covers today on NetGalley too, where they do that, where part of the title is kind of faint, like it's not there. I want to be able to see the title. Anyway, The Talisman by Stephen King and Peter Straub. Haven't gotten very far in it, but yeah, probably about 50 pages. Just, it's a very fat Stephen King book. I might actually finish this because once I get into it, it'll go pretty fast. The next print book I will probably finish. You never know. But I've been making progress in Life Before Man by Margaret Atwood. This is one that I picked up from a free shelf because I forgot my book. And it turned out that it actually is a book that would have been valid for a booktuber pre-97. So, yeah, I've been enjoying it. And then all of the stories of Muriel Spark, which the bookmark has moved a little bit. Short stories. I usually read 1 or 2 stories at a time and then, read whatever else I'm reading. So... any of these books that are carryovers, I may finish in May. Probably in the first week. Usually I try to finish the carryovers first before I start a whole bunch more books. The other project that's still going on... let's see if I can get to the book without knocking everything off. It may or may not work. There we go. So the 24 tomes for 24. The number that was selected in the reading game that selects my number in the Reading 1001 group was 22. So I did not locate my physical copy of The Robber Bride by Margaret Atwood, but that's the book that corresponds to that for that game. So when I find it, I will be reading The Robber Bride by Margaret Atwood in May, in addition to these 31 books. So, there's a lot of wiggling going on in these, but TBRs are already fraught. But anyway, the number 22 for the 24 Tomes project is this book, Modern Classics of Science Fiction, edited by Gardner Dozois, I think. the French, it would be Dozois, I think, but I'm not really sure how he would pronounce it. Anyway, Modern Classics of Science Fiction. And the book that was selected 2 months ago was also a short story collection. It was the Fiction 100. So I've got 2 short story collections I need to finish. Plus, the one for April was London by Edward Rutherford. So I've got a lot of tomes to continue progress in. So hopefully I can finish one of those tomes this coming month. I'm not going to do it in April. I think I've conceded that I will not even finish the carryovers I showed you tonight in April. 1 or 2, maybe 3. If I don't stick with arcs much longer, if I let the arcs that I'm currently reading roll over, then I could finish a couple of these print books. Anyway, so that is my TBR. I know this has gotten rather long, but there's a lot of books involved. And I know a lot of chatting as well, but once a month, it's the TBR. Yeah, I'll do supplemental videos if there are additional books to talk about for the TBR. Definitely for the buddy read books. And I will talk about my Discord a little bit more in that video. And kind of what I'm going to do with it. Because it's a new project. I had agonized over having one and decided, yeah, I probably should have one. So now that I have a Discord, what do you do with one? Well, yeah. So I'll do a video on that. I will do definitely a video on the books that I finished in April. Once April is officially done. So, after midnight on the 30th, I will scramble to get a video together, maybe. But definitely it's not going to happen till April is over, because I'm claiming my hours. And I don't have a lot of physical books to show off for this past week. So I will be talking about a lot of the books that I read this past week. But for a lot of them, the physical copy doesn't even exist yet that I know of. Because I've been reading a lot of NetGalley arcs. And some of those aren't going to come out for quite a while. My favorite one out of what I read this week was Apartment Women by... Oh, am I going to remember the author? Goose something. No, I'm not going to remember that author. I will talk about it more in the video where I'm supposed to be talking about it. It's going to come out in December. It was a really good book. And yeah, if you hear about it, or if you do NetGalley and you see that book and are wondering if you want to request it, it was a really good book. I do recommend it. I would not be surprised if it's the sort of book that wins awards. It's that kind of writing. So, yeah. So I'll have plenty to talk about with those. I did have a couple duds that were unfortunate. One that put me back to writing seminars in grad school. I was a TA in grad school and taught writing, sort of, or coached writing, I think would be a better verb. So for a while I was grading lots of papers, had my red pens handy, and this book reminded me of my life doing grading, because I really wanted a red pen, and books that show up on NetGalley for review should not be in that state. They should be past that by now. So that was slightly painful, but it happens. It hasn't happened to me for a while. Yeah, so I will talk more about that in a later video. I have a feeling that the trend is going to be to videos that have a bit of waffling. Yeah, so maybe I'll try and also make shorter videos just to get in the habit of making short videos again. So, short being under 10 minutes, I think, would be my standard. So we'll see if that happens. Yeah. So hopefully you guys are having an excellent end of your April. Oh, I need to do a video updating on the readathons and reading events from April and how those went. So that'll also be hopefully something in the queue. Including what was it like to be a booktuber from 1997, which was fairly successful. So that'll be a video. And I will catch you guys in one of those videos or in sprints somewhere around. And yeah. Let me know if you are doing a video for your TBR or if you have an idea what you're going to be reading in May. Also, let me know if you are interested in doing buddy reads with me on any of the books that I've shown or that I've talked about as existing buddy reads already. Yeah, let me know. Enjoy your reading, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye, guys!